For most of modern education, there's been a simple assumption: the teacher is the source of knowledge. Students come to class, and the teacher explains. But today, the assumption is beginning to shift. Students can access explanations instantly. They can ask questions to systems that respond immediately. They can explore ideas without waiting for instruction. So, if the teacher is no longer the primary source, what happens to teaching? Welcome back to the EdTech Curio Cabinet. Hello again. I'm Christina. And here in the EdTech Curio Cabinet, each episode explores a curiosity from the evolving world of teaching and learning. We examine these curios through four lenses: the artifact, the technology or trend we're looking at; the pattern, what history reveals about similar shifts; the paradox, that unexpected tension hiding inside the story; and the signal, what this might tell us about the future of education. Today's curio explores a subtle but important shift: not whether teachers are replaced, but what happens when they are no longer the primary source of knowledge. Artificial intelligence systems are now capable of acting as always available explainers. Students can ask questions at any time. They receive explanations in multiple forms. They can come back and request examples tailored to their level of understanding and revisit concepts without social pressure. Education researcher Rose Luckin has described this as a shift towards systems that can support learners continuously, outside the constraints of scheduled instruction. This is something different than earlier technologies. Textbooks provided information, videos delivered explanations, but AI systems respond. They adapt, they engage, which changes something fundamental. Students no longer depend exclusively on the instructor to access understanding, and that shifts where the authority lives in the learning process. There's a broader pattern that appears across many domains. When access to information expands, authority shifts. Now consider what happened in journalism. When information became widely accessible online, journalists were no longer the sole gatekeepers of news. Or in medicine, patients now have access to vast amounts of medical information, so doctors are no longer the only source of knowledge. But their role obviously didn't disappear. It evolved towards diagnosis, judgment, and guidance. That same pattern is beginning to emerge in education. As access to explanations expands, the instructor is no longer the sole authority on content. And when authority shifts, roles must be redefined. So here's the paradox. As students gain more direct access to knowledge, instructors may have less control over the learning process. Students can explore topics independently, they'll encounter alternative explanations, and they'll move ahead or fall behind outside the structure of the course. From one perspective, this reduces the instructor's control, but at the same time, it increases their responsibility. Because now the challenge is not delivering content, it is helping students make sense of what they encounter and distinguish strong explanations from the weak ones. It's also helping them connect ideas across contexts and stay intellectually grounded. Educational researcher Lee Schulman emphasized that teaching involves understanding how learners interpret ideas, not just presenting them. That becomes even more important in environments where students encounter information from many sources. The paradox is this: the less instructors control what students see, the more important their role becomes in helping students understand it. Now, the signal emerging from this shift is not about replacing instructors. It's about redefining teaching as sense-making. In this model, the instructor is not the primary source of information. They are a guide that helps students interpret ideas, navigate the complexity of these ideas, help them resolve confusion that emerges, and build a coherent understanding. The classroom becomes less about delivering content and more about discussion and synthesis, reflection, intellectual framing. Now, technology expands access, but the instructors shape the meaning, and meaning is where learning happens. This shift can feel unsettling because it changes a long-standing assumption that teaching is about explaining. But perhaps teaching has always been something else, not just providing answers, but helping students understand what those answers mean. In a world where explanations are abundant, that role becomes even more important. As new tools enter education, the question is not whether teachers disappear. It's how does their role evolve? And sometimes the most important changes are not about what is added, but about what moves. That's why we keep the cabinet open. Thanks for exploring the EdTech Curio Cabinet.